Hey everyone, my name is Brad, vlogging and investing doc. Today I'm going to talk about some unbelievably bad interviews that we've had and ways that you can avoid these. So just please don't do these, but here we go. Those of you that are following my blog may know that we're trying to open another location, trying to open that with another physician, but if we can't find a physician, fine, we'll put a PA, NP there if we have to. We actually had 2 interviews with 2 great docs that we loved, and unfortunately, one ended up deciding they were going to move to another state for family reasons, and another one took a job closer to where they live. So we're still hunting for that right fit, but I wanted to talk about some of the unbelievably bad interviews that we've had. The first one we'll call the unwanted party soundtrack. I pick up the phone and I talk to this lady as a phone interview because she says that she can't do Zoom for some reason. And I guess I should stop here and say that we do a lot of our first interviews via phone or Zoom because we've wasted way too much time face-to-face interviews, and you can weed out a lot of people really quick with a phone call or just a Zoom meeting. So I get on this phone call and it basically is super loud in the background. I hear a bunch of rap music playing, I hear some splashing in the water. And as I'm talking to this person, I'm like, hey, did we have the wrong day for the interview? I can call you back on a different day. And she responds, oh no, this is the right time. I'm happy to talk to you right now. So as I'm talking to her, I hear someone in the background yell out Jello shots really loudly. And we're trying to have this professional conversation and it just didn't work. Needless to say, that was probably a lovely person, but if you're gonna interview for a professional job, please be in a professional setting and don't be at a party where somebody's yelling out shots in the background. We ended up passing on that person. The next one is the unprepped interviewer. Now, you don't necessarily need to read a ton about our business, but at least know who you're applying for. I would say this is the most common problem when we're trying to hire doctors, PAs, or NPs, is they have no idea what they applied for. At least at minimum, go to the website and see what they do. This one person I called and they were like, I'm sorry, who are you again? And I was like, hey, I own a primary care clinic. You applied for a primary care clinic job. Do you want to talk about it or not? And he basically was like, oh yeah, I remember applying for that. You're right in my area, very interested, but I didn't read anything about you. And towards like the end of the interview, because I kind of winded it short because I wasn't feeling it at all, is this guy basically was like, oh yeah, and if you could email me a follow-up to tell me a little bit of blurb about your practice and about what y'all do, that would be great, thanks. And a part of me was like, look, not only did you not do the work, but you want me to basically send you a little highlight of what we are? We're a primary care clinic. I don't know how else can I say that to you? We do regular primary care clinic things. Go to the website, it tells you exactly what you need to know. It's not just that guy, I would say that is the most common issue is unprepared interviews. The next one we'll call the candid confession. And this one I feel bad even talking about because I do appreciate the transparentness of it. And I'll highlight something different. So the one thing that she led with was that she failed her boards 3 times, and that's why there was such a gap between her graduating and applying for a job, which I appreciate the transparentness. However, right after that, she said multiple times, you know, I don't even know if medicine is for me anymore. I don't even know if I want to do this. I just don't know. I think that's the part that bothered me the most, is not necessarily that you failed your boards before. That's a whole separate issue. I appreciate how transparent you were there, but the fact that you're even questioning for your first job while on the interview for that job, do you even want to work in medicine anymore when you're applying to work in medicine? Yeah, we're not going to hire you. So unfortunately, we passed on that lady. I wish her the best. I'm glad she passed. But yeah, don't question your job choices during the interview. The next one we'll call the misplaced expertise. And I might get flamed for this one, but look, I think that practicing a little bit outside of your scope of expertise, as long as you have great training, fine. But when you start getting beyond that, I think it's a bit much. And one guy applied, he's local to us, and seemed like a nice guy, but I went to his website and on his resume, he really highlighted the fact that he took this training course in, I think it was Florida, and he learned how to do liposuction and other in-office plastic surgeries. So this guy, who is a family practice doc, was doing in-office liposuctions a couple miles down the road and kind of said that business was slow, so he wanted to move over and go back to primary care. And anyway, I think that we had a hard time kind of fitting it in as saying like, look, if you don't know what your limitations are in your level of expertise, and if you trust to do in-office liposuction after a 2-day course training somewhere in the middle of nowhere, in my opinion, that might be a bit outside of your level of expertise, and maybe you should leave that to plastic surgeons or people who have maybe more formal training in that. But again, it just wasn't a good fit with us. And maybe he is very competent and maybe he's wonderful at what he does and the procedures that he does. I don't know. I'm not judging necessarily that because I've never seen any of his outcomes. But all I'm saying is that he highlighted that so much to the point where I was like, why are you moving back to traditional primary care when your entire website and everything talks about how much you didn't really work out in primary care and that's why you went this other direction? Anyway, the next one we'll call the unconventional entrepreneur. This guy is probably a nice guy. He created a website in the height of the pandemic that basically was online, telemed only, and if you wanted ivermectin, you were getting it. And I know that's going to also probably bring me some flame. I'm not going down that road of did ivermectin help or not. But at the same time, the fact that this guy was doing this and some other controversial things online, basically direct to consumer, we just had to pass on that. I think from an employer standpoint, it's not a good look when you're going down these very controversial ways. And here's my concern with that. If something ever goes bad in the news with this guy and his side gig or whatever and giving ivermectin to tens of thousands of people for COVID-19, if people Google this person's name and they're associated with my practice, I don't think the average person is going to separate the two. Oh, well, that's not the regular practice. That's a side business that he's actually doing it with. I think that I'm going to get drug into whatever that side business is. So for that reason, we had to pass. All right, the second to last one I've mentioned before in a previous post, but it's too good to leave out. I interviewed this doc. Very nice guy, and on the way out of the interview, he, I guess, thought we were being bros at the time, which I don't know why he would even go down this road, but at the end of the interview, he goes, hey man, just FYI, I don't know if you noticed this already, but your nurse, that booty is really big and really nice. And I just look at him like, did you really just say that at the end of the interview? What the hell? So, professionally, I'm like, well, I appreciate you coming in today. Hope you have a great day. But yeah, that was a hard pass. We don't want to open ourselves up to any sexual harassment or anything like that. And I could not believe that that guy made a comment on my nurse's butt during the interview. That was absurd. And the final one is a little bit comedic in itself, is that this lady, we live in the Central Time Zone, and she lives in the Central Time Zone. So you would think that if we said our appointment to meet is at 4:30, you would think that we'd be talking about Central Time Zone. Well, for this lady, you'd be wrong. She assumed that because she took a vacation in a different time zone, that she, in her mind, thought that maybe I knew that she was on vacation in another time zone and that she wanted to do it at her time zone. But the part that made me just pass on her completely is instead of apologizing and trying to correct it or anything, she was basically saying to my reply of, oh, I'm actually booked during that time. I have a meeting. She said, well, I'm free. So can someone else call me for the interview? And I get that maybe you blocked that time for yourself, but really this was your mistake. And the fact that you want me to bend over backwards for your mistake, and honestly, pretty stupid mistake to make in my opinion, that why would you think a different time zone? That would be like if we were in the same city saying, hey, let's go to lunch tomorrow. And you show up at noon and I'm like, oh, I meant California time zone lunch. Sorry. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, this lady we just ended up passing on just because of the way she approached it. It was non-apologetic. It was almost like we had to bend over backwards for her. And I know that may be petty, but I don't know why. That just rubbed me the wrong way. All right, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed today's chat. I'll see y'all next week.